On March 30th, 2002, an old woman passed away in London. She was 101 years old. She had outlasted 2 world wars, a dozen prime ministers, and everyone who might have contradicted her version of the story. Hundreds of thousands filed past her coffin. An entire nation wept. And then, barely had the ink of the obituaries dried, someone began to ask questions. To understand her, you have to start with the day her life was hijacked. December 10th, 1936, her brother-in-law, Edward VIII, gave up the crown of the British Empire. He would rather marry a twice-divorced American, Wallis Simpson. His brother had to take over. Her husband, Bertie, a nervous, stammering second son who was never meant to be king and never wanted to be. He became George VI. She turned the shy stammerer into a king who could step up to a microphone. And she, Elizabeth Bowes-Lyon, was queen overnight. She never forgave Wallis. For 66 years, she never spoke that name. "That woman!" she called her. In 1939, she wrote about Wallis. The people hate her. When Wallis married her Edward, she was denied the title of Royal Highness. By royal decree. She was a duchess, nothing more. A small piece of protocol with the force of a guillotine. Then came the war, and the war made her a legend. Autumn 1940. The Luftwaffe was bombing London. The family was advised to flee to Canada. She refused, in a single sentence. "The children will not go without me. I will not leave the king, and the king will never leave." On the 13th of September 1940, a bomb fell on Buckingham Palace while the family was inside. She survived. Dust on her coat, shock on her face. She said, "I am glad we have been hit. Now I can look the East End in the eye." The East End was being devastated. The working-class districts, the docks, the people with the fewest places to flee. And she walked through the rubble. In pale coats, designed specially by her couturier Hartnell, so that the people could see her. "If the East End put on its best clothes," she said, "then so would she." The German dictator is said to have called her the most dangerous woman in Europe. But there is an uncomfortable part. Before the war, she was among those who wanted to avoid another war at almost any cost. In the summer of 1939, she read the propaganda tract Mein Kampf. Very soapbox, she wrote, but interesting. She sent a copy to Foreign Secretary Halifax. "Don't read all of it," she advised, "or you might go mad." Sympathy for the ideas in it, that was not. It was the fear of a woman who had survived the First War. Of the Second. February 1952. After 16 years on a throne he had never wanted, George VI's strength gave out. He was 56 years old. His widow was 51. And she would outlive him by half a century. 50 years as Queen Mother. Longer than she had ever been queen. She blamed Wallis for his early end, and she held that conviction to the last. Let's talk about money, because she never did. She was an Edwardian. One did not talk about prices. One had people for that. 4 residences, dozens of servants, nearly 500 racehorses over the course of her life. Her gin and Dubonnet was ready every morning. 2 parts gin to 1 part Dubonnet. Champagne in the evening. At 97, she smuggled 12 bottles of it into hospital. Her daughter, the reigning queen, propped all of this up with an estimated £2 million a year. And still, she left debts. An overdraft of several £1 million, insiders reported, at the Royal Bank Coutts, When her horse, Devon Loch, collapsed yards from victory in the Great Race of 1956, she only said, "Oh, that's racing." And then there is the story that cannot be glossed over. April 1987. A newspaper reveals something the family had hidden for 4 decades. 2 cousins of the Queen had been living in an institution in Surrey since 1941. Nerissa and Catherine Bowes-Lyon, nieces of the Queen Mum, both with severe disabilities, locked away at 22 and at 15. On the same day, 3 more cousins from the maternal branch disappeared, behind the same walls. 2 sisters, 3 cousins. 5 young women of one family taken away on the same day. A photographer from the newspaper posed as a relative to get inside. What he found shook the country. In 1963, the aristocratic register Burke's Peerage had declared both of them dead, yet both were still alive. By the time the newspaper looked into it in 1987, Nerissa had passed away the year before, laid to rest under a plastic tag with a number. Catherine lived on until 2014, forgotten by the family into which they had been born. A form filled out incorrectly? Or were they made to disappear 5 years after the abdication, when the dynasty could show no weakness? The truth lies in the dark. Only one thing is documented. The family kept silent for decades, and the woman who was the memory of this family never spoke their names in public. Strangers sent Catherine flowers. Her guiding principle was, never complain, never explain. It had worked for 80 years. Then came Diana. Diana complained, Diana explained. On television, before millions. For the old lady in Clarence House, it was as if someone had thrown open the curtains that had been kept shut for a lifetime. Diana is said to have called her the arch-leper of the colony. When Diana lost her life in 1997, the royal family kept silent for 6 days. No flag at half-mast. "Where is our queen?" the headlines asked. It was one of the most dangerous moments of the modern monarchy, and the 97-year-old did not understand what everyone was so upset about. Royals behaved as royals had always behaved. The world had changed without telling her. A saint she was not. A monster she was not either. She was an Edwardian countess who became the grandmother of a nation. Brave and indifferent. Beloved and unreachable. She walked through rubble in a pink coat and kept silent about 2 women in an institution. She outlived everyone who might have contradicted her, and she departed as she had lived, impeccable, smiling, with a gin in her hand, and without the slightest intention of explaining anything.